welcome to Skye Sweaty Record Review, episode 89. It's the only new music review show hosted by a French professor immediately after leaving the gym. And also, apparently, after getting a haircut. Anyways, I'm going to be reviewing an album that I said I'd review before. It's by the French electro artist Gesaffelstein. Gesaffelstein? I don't know. If you want to listen to my review of the song he did with The Weeknd, check it out. I'll post it at the end. Oh, hey, my dog's here. Hey, Bo. Oh, he just went to the vet. You doing okay, Bo? He's doing fine. He's wagging his tail. So I want to review this album. It's interesting because I didn't know about Gesaffelstein, but in a way I should have. I'm very interested in the idea of like coaching trees. So if you watch football, if you know about football, often there'll be a coach, and then their assistant coaches will become coaches, and then their assistant coaches will become coaches. Like Bill Belichick is from the Bill Parcells coaching tree. And I think in music, sometimes it feels that way. Like artistic creativity or interesting things happens almost like there's a central figure, and then things associated with that branch out from it. I think a pretty good example is Random Access Memories by Daft Punk. You know, it gets you listening to Nile Rodgers, who of course were an influence, gets you listening to Paul Williams and all those kinds of things. And I also think that the album Yeezus by Kanye has a great coaching tree. Pretty much everything Kanye does, eventually the people who guest, the people who produce, the people who appear end up having some kind of importance that's worth studying. A great example is Nicki Minaj. She didn't exist as far as I knew, and then she was on the song Monster, and then now she's a superstar. So the album Yeezus, it's one of my favorite records, and in particular it has this really grimy feel, like really dirty and grimy. And I knew that he co-produced it with Daft Punk, but that doesn't quite match their aesthetic. So it turns out that two of the songs, Black Skinhead and Send It Up, two of the best songs on an amazing album, were also produced by this guy, Gesaffelstein. And I'm getting the sense that a lot of that grime was contributed by him, a lot of that dirty feeling. So somehow I missed that he released a solo album. I don't know, I wasn't paying attention to new music in 2013, except for those three albums. So I'm really excited to find it. It's interesting because, you know, on Blood on the Leaves, at the end, there's a feature, it's co-produced by Hudson Mohawke, and, you know, Hudson Mohawke is this Scottish music producer, and he brings in a lot of those, like, driving horns, and, like, he invented that sound, Kanye co-opted it and used it, and then now it's everywhere in pop music and even in, like, Arby's commercials. So it's crazy how this sort of influence tree flows. So what is the Gesaffelstein album? First of all, it's not German. His name is apparently a mixture of the German word for a complete work, Gesamtkunstwerk, and Einstein. So that's a pretty pretentious name to call yourself. My dog is now drinking water. That's the ambient noise that you hear. I don't edit this show. So my dog comes back from the vet in the middle of the show. You get to hear it. Sweatpants. I still don't know what I call my fans. So the album is also called Hyperion, which is also kind of pretentious. I would say you can divide this album into two different pieces. One part is like an EP of instrumental music that is extremely cohesive and sounds like almost one piece of music. And then there's the songs featuring singers. I already reviewed the song with The Weeknd. There's a song with Pharrell called Blast Off, kind of an off-key, unsettling collaboration. Another song with Haim, which is not great. It's okay. Basically, any song with singers, it's interesting because it maintains a certain unity across the entire album, but the vocals somehow mess it up. So I'm going to focus mostly on the instrumental tracks. It opens up with the title track Hyperion, which sounds sort of like a kid playing on a keyboard. Like it goes from left to right. You know, like headphones, you know, like when you're driving around in your car as a kid and you like play with like left and right and front and back and bass and treble. It sounds a little bit like he's just kind of playing with those knobs, but it's got this really nice, very simple, almost minimalist sound. And I would say the entire album sounds like a soundtrack to an 80s movie, but it's not like cinematic. It's like soundtrack to a straight-to-video 80s movie in a really good way. A lot of nice 80s sounding synths, automated arpeggios, simple drum lines. It has that kind of unified theme, like a movie you would have rented and then at the end been like, that was kind of a cool soundtrack. So I really enjoyed the beginning bit of this album, Hyperion. The next song is also another instrumental called Reset, a little bit more grimy, a little bit more produced. And then I'd really like to sort of fast forward to the end, get past all these songs that have people singing. There's 3 songs that end it that I think are excellent to listen to. It's about 20 minutes worth of music, actually 15. And the whole thing gets one single stamp. Take a listen to Vortex, Memora, and Humanity Gone. The whole thing, it has an amazing consistency of that slightly grimy, slightly 80s sounding feel. I'll play you an example from the song Vortex, this nice kind of driving, well-produced electronica. Here we go. You hear how it sounds, right? That kind of nice, like, pulsing. Kind of washed over sounds with those nice little grimy notes. That kind of follows all throughout. Then the next track follows that quite closely, but is much more of a laid-back song, almost like a driving song. With those nice swelling keyboards. I mean, I wouldn't call it like retro. It doesn't feel retro. It's just using that soundscape. And then it ends with Humanity Gone, which is, I'm not going to play, but it has like these like church organs. The whole thing has what I call Wyoming quality. So one time I was driving through Wyoming and someone put on some Pink Floyd, and at the time I didn't like Pink Floyd, and they put on Animals. And we were driving through Wyoming, listening to Pink Floyd, like watching the mountains go by and seeing the cattle and everything. And I just kind of had that nice driving, relaxed feel that wasn't like sleepy. It was driving. Like a long drive. So this album has great Wyoming feel, which is a new term. Do you like that term? What's your favorite album that would fit that criteria? Put it in the comments. I'm dying for more listeners. So that's my review. I suggest listening to it if that sounds good to you. I would really just listen to the instrumental stuff separately because it forms almost like this nice EP, this nice soundtrack to a lost 80s movie. I'm also trying out a new catchphrase. Okay, what was it again? New music is the fountain of mental youth. I think it's pretty good. It's part of the point of the whole show. You'll stay mentally young if you stay open, if your mind stays open to new music, and you push yourself to listen to new music. So I might say that before I say my normal catchphrase. What was that again? There's the camera.